Hi, I'm Dave Wurzel, and you're watching PHTV4 Bookshelf. And with me today is co-host, special guest, Beth Stevens, who works in the Public Services Department at Pale Sites Library. Beth, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And on this show, Beth and I are going to recommend some books from a variety of categories. And so, Beth, thank you for joining us to do that. And why don't we jump right in? And I think you're going to go first with a beach read.
Yes, this is Taylor Jenkins Reid's newest book, and it tells the story of the celebrity Rivas siblings, and it takes place at their annual end of summer party in Malibu in August of 1983. Their father was a famous musician who was in and out of their lives, and their mother was an alcoholic. Their chaotic upbringing has made them very close, but on the night of the party, the secrets they've kept from each other will come to light. This is a page turner with well-written, flawed characters, and is a great book to toss in your luggage for your summer trip.
Okay, good. Good start to the summer reading there then, huh? All right.
Yes.
How about, I'm going to do historical fiction here. Lisa Scottolini. You, Beth, might be familiar with her, and I imagine we have a lot of readers who are very familiar. This is the first book I've read by her. And I heard her interview. This is not her usual style. So I guess I have to preface that for people who are familiar with her work. She wrote historical fiction here, and it's very well researched. The main characters are fictional characters. You have three close friends in their mid to late teen years. I think it starts in 1937, set in Rome, Italy, and it's beginning with the rise of fascism, and it's going to move through World War II. And so it's populated with real characters, real historical individuals. And in the meantime, you have the story of these three young people and their family kind of woven into the backdrop of, Europe entering into war, dealing with racism, fascism, the race laws against, people who are Jewish. And I was surprised. I got hook, lined, and sinkered into this book. It was a great read, and I would read more books by her because of this. She said it was really a lot of work. It was hard work for her to write because of all the research, but she plans on writing more historical fiction. So for me, this is an easy recommend. I thought this was a really fun read. All right, next, you've got a mystery thriller for us.
I do. This one has been getting a lot of press this year. It's about Jacob Bonner, who had a successful first novel, but then has failed to have any success after that. And he now teaches at a third-rate college and hasn't written anything for ages. Years after reading the plot of one of his students' proposed novels, he never sees it in print, so he goes looking for it. What happened? And discovers that the student has died. So he takes the plot and writes the story himself. Fame and fortune follow him, but then an email comes, the first in an anonymous, terrifying chain, accuses him of being a thief. This is a great book for somebody who likes thrillers that are a little slower paced and character driven.
Okay, sounds good. And, absolutely, good characters can make a story so much more interesting, right? You care about them and what are they going to do? Okay, good.
I tend to like the character driven as opposed to the plot driven.
No, I would agree with you. You can have a great plot, but if you don't care about the characters, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a good mystery thriller for you. How about next for me is historical nonfiction. So I have not read this book. It just landed on my shelf. Matter of fact, I think it's right behind my head right now. I'm going to begin reading it this coming weekend. I've read a book by Tom Glavine before. I really liked it. Some of you may be familiar. He wrote Dodge City and Tombstone. And, this one is, it's about Daniel Boone, the legendary Daniel Boone, set in the mid 1800s. But this tells the real story of him on that frontier. beyond the mountains. And of course, in this case, we're talking about the Smokies, but it's based on letters and diaries, journals, newspaper accounts, and some eyewitness accounts. So we get a sense of the real person. And based on my experience with Tom Clavin before as an author, I'm looking forward to this. I like the demythologizing of these individuals, but they still make for great stories, incredibly interesting. So this one I'm going to be picking up soon, and I'm pretty safe recommending it.
Yes, definitely.
Beth, you have for us historical fiction.
I do. And it's the newest Chris Bojalian, who is one of my favorite authors. I like his ability to weave very thorough historical research into his novels without making you feel like you're reading a really dry historical narrative. In this one, he's taking on the Salem witch trials and telling the story of Mary Deerfield, who is a beautiful young woman married to an older man who is seen by the community as an upstanding man, but in private, he's very abusive. And the story isn't a simple retelling of the witch trials, but it explores some of the hysteria that led up to it. And it also explores how Mary tries to reconcile her religious faith with the pain inflicted by family and community.
Okay, and I think I heard, I had a sneak preview that this author is going to be doing a virtual program, Palos Heights
He is.
Library setting up. Do you have a
He
date
is.
on that?
October
October.
15th. I'm sorry, October 27th.
Okay,
15th,
October 27th.
October 27th.
This is a great opportunity to read the book and then get a chance to meet and hear the author speak. And I know my wife really likes this author, and I've heard a lot of good things. So this will probably be a book I pick up, early fall. Okay, good. Hour of the Witch. Let's see. You've got another one for us here. History True Crime category.
Yeah, this one's different. I do the nonfiction book discussion group here, Lunch Bunch, that meets on Monday, the second Monday of the month at noon. And they like to read all kinds of history and pretty much anything I throw at them. So this month was the challenging one of the year. And overall, it was well received by the group. It's part Christian history, part true crime, and overall a really excellent example of investigative journalism. Saber, he sheds light on the very rarefied world of biblical scholarship, so you'll get to hear about Coptic Gospels and all that stuff. And then he shows how a Harvard professor was duped into passing off forged papyrus as a previously unknown gospel. I think the greatest strengths of the book are how he explores what motivated both the professor to be willing to accept this forgery and why the forger did what he did. It was a fascinating read.
It sounds like it. I'm going to have to put this on my to-read list. It sounds really like a fascinating story. I love these kind of stories,
Yeah, the research is amazing. It really, he does a phenomenal job with the research.
Sounds like it. Okay, my next book is a book that I held in my hands. I was at the bookstore and I was choosing this book or that book. And I know some of you are thinking, well, get them both, This is probably the book I'll move to next after the book Blood and Treasure by Clavin about Daniel Boone. This book is All That She Carried by Taya Miles. It's a book that's going to be on my shelf soon. It's historical nonfiction. I love the premise for this book. She did tremendous amount of research on it based on this bag, as she calls in the subtitle here, The Journey of Ashley Sack, a black family keepsake. Ashley is, when the book opens or begins, or how the story unfolds, it kind of follows the three generations of women. And it begins with Rose, who is a slave in South Carolina in 1850s, I think the early 50s. And her 9-year-old daughter, Ashley, is just about to be sold. And she gives her this sack and puts some items in it for her. And based on the research that Miles did, she's going to kind of reconstruct the experience of we'll get Rose and Ashley and eventually the granddaughter, Ruth. and kind of the journey of this SAC. And I know she did a tremendous amount of research to kind of put together the story and experiences of these people and the people around them. And so I'm kind of looking forward to this one. So that's next on my radar. Um, Historical nonfiction there. Okay, Beth, I think you're next.
Yes, this is one. The reviews on it sounded interesting, and I've purchased it for the library, but not gotten on my hands on it yet. It's just come out, and it's Cape Doctor is inspired by the life of Dr. James Miranda Barry, who was born Margaret Brackley in 1795 in Cork, Ireland. She lived her life as a man so she could attend medical school and eventually became a famous physician in Cape Town, South Africa. I like historical fiction, which introduces me to someone or something that I don't know much about. And this one looks like it's going to do both of those things for me.
No, again, this sounds really fascinating to me. And I'm with you. I have a personal bias towards historical fiction as well. The premise here, really interesting. Okay, we'll look forward to that, hearing how that one is. And so we've kind of drifted into this category already. We're talking about books that are coming out that we're looking forward to reading. And let's see, we've got one more. Actually, I think you might have read this one already. Historical
Dan Brown?
nonfiction.
No, not yet. Your wife got a hold of it before me.
Oh, she did. She just read. She loved it. She says I have to read it. So what's your take on this book?
I absolutely loved Boys in the Boat and his previous one as well. He has a way of finding some obscure historical event and really bringing it to life through his research and his writing, and you really feel like you care about these people. And this one is he follows 4 Japanese American families during World War II. The sons volunteered for the 442nd Regimental Combat Team and were deployed to France, Germany, and Italy. And so he's exploring both the experiences on the front lines as well as their families back home and what they were experiencing being in the detention camps. So he's kind of exploring the themes of racism and patriotism, and I'm really looking forward to reading that one.
Yeah, you know, and I think you made a really good point about taking some event that maybe I think typically can fly under the radar. Like his other book, Boys in the Boat. I read that. And if you were to tell me, I'd get really excited and fascinated by a book about a rowing team, I think set, pre-World War II, right? And yet it was a great book. And because of that book, I'll definitely read this book too, even though the advanced reviews on it sound like it's really a good book.
His book on the Donner Party is good too.
Yeah. And think about that, right? That story. Okay, so Facing the Mountain, historical nonfiction that's out there for you to take a look at. All right, now we're gonna start to transition to books that are not out yet, but are coming out that we can either recommend or might be something you want to put on your radar. And for me, this will be on my shelf as soon as the bookstore opens. That's the category, August 2021. For me, William Kent Krueger is one of those authors that he bumps to the front of the line. I have a stack of books I'm waiting to get to, but when his book comes out, he jumps to the top. And this will be one of them. He's a best-selling author. The more famous book some people know him by is Ordinary Grace, which I thought that's the first book I read by him, and I thought it was great. And it caused me to go back and read his other books, where actually almost all of them. He's got a couple others, I think. Almost all of them are about a Cork O'Connor character who is a sheriff. Most of the books, not all of them, in a small town, rural area in northern Minnesota. And again, if you told me in advance, like, yeah, doesn't that sound great? And I'm like, I guess. But he makes the characters just incredibly interesting and fascinating. And he puts them through these stories that are very interesting. I ended up reading the entire series about Cork O'Connor. So I'd recommend that in a heartbeat. Well, this one is a Cork O'Connor story, but it's a prequel. So Cork O'Connor in this one is not yet the sheriff or detective that he'll be in the later series. He is, a young boy, and his dad is the sheriff, and we're going to get to follow his dad on a case. So Lightning Strike by William Kent Krueger coming out in August. And this one will bump to the front of my line. All right, let's see. I think we have one more July book coming out real soon here. Beth, this is you.
Yes, I am not a huge mystery thriller fan, but this one caught my eye when I read a library journal review that described it as scary as hell and will make readers want to avoid flying anytime soon.
But the
It's about an
airline
airline.
industry isn't excited about this.
No, not at all. It's about an airline pilot who's put in a no-win situation. Shortly after takeoff, he's told his family has been taken hostage, and in order to free them, he must crash the plane.
Oh,
So I can't wait to see how he manages that one.
all
It's
right.
got it looks like it's had a very large buy, so it should be popular.
Okay, good. So Falling by TJ Newman, mystery thriller coming out in July. All right, now we're going to jump to, oh wait, yeah, we're going to jump to books that are coming out in August. And so we're not familiar in some cases with the author. I'm going to take Louise Penny here. Okay, Beth, you can have Billie Jean King. The Madness of Crowds. I just discovered this summer Inspector Gamache, and yeah, I'm sold. I think Louise Penny is a great storyteller, and in this one, Inspector Gamache is back in Three Pines, Quebec, and he's hired to protect somebody, provide security for a professor at a nearby university. But there's all kinds of issue. The message he's delivering, or part of the forum, the lecture series, there's a hate thing going on, or generates a lot of negative energy, and he doesn't even want to do the thing. But of course, if you're familiar with Inspector Gamache, what a strong character he is, and in this case, there will ultimately be a murder, and he and his partner, who is Jean Beauvais. I'm still mastering all their names, but I'm looking forward to this. This is another one I'll read pretty quickly after it comes out. I like Inspector Gamache and Louise Penny's stories here. Let's see, Beth, you want to take Billie Jean King here?
Sure. All In is an autobiography. It tells the story of her career and her unwavering activism and commitment to social justice and fairness. She includes a cultural backdrop of the 1960s as she discusses the development of her worldview as she tells her story, an intimate and inspiring self-portrait.
And I remember her career, and it sounds kind of interesting because she is a very interesting person.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, I
so
used to watch a lot of tennis, so I'll be interested in that one.
yeah, I think this is something people might want to take a look at, especially the very interesting time period, the 1960s
Yeah.
and early 70s. And then the last three we're going to recommend. These also are coming out in August. Bethany, you want to take the first one there?
Sure. Jojo Moyes. This is the first release of this book in the United States. Um, and it tells the story of Isabel Delancey, a classical violinist who, upon the death of her husband, who has a mountain of debt, must find a way to survive with her two children.
Okay.
I look forward
Now,
to that. I've read up for others.
you've read her other works?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
some are better than others, but
yeah, I know she's a best-selling author here and and in
yeah.
Britain. Okay, good. The Guide by Peter Heller. This, some of you may be more familiar with his other work, the best-selling author of The River. And in this case, he's, returning with this heart-racing thriller about a young man who, escaping his own grief, is hired by an elite fishing lodge in Colorado, where amid the natural beauty of sun-drenched streams and forest, he uncovers a plot of shocking menace. And obviously I'm giving that's publisher's information there, but it sounds good. And The River was a great story too. And I love the setting for this one, that location. So The Guide by Peter Heller. And our last book, Beth, for you, Velvet Was the Night.
Velvet Was the Night. This is a New York Times bestselling author of Mexican Gothic. It's a delicious, twisted treat for lovers of noir, and about a daydreaming secretary, a lonesome enforcer, and the mystery of a missing woman they're both desperate to find. That's from Amazon.
Okay.
It sounds good. Mexican Gothic was good.
I'm sorry?
Mexican Gothic was good.
Right. I was going to say, if I saw this book in the bookstore, I probably wouldn't pick it up, except I read Mexican Gothic and I liked it. And so, yeah, I would take a look at this book too then. I thought she's a pretty good storyteller.
Mhm.
So Mexican Gothic was good. So there you go. Velvet Was the Night. So anyway, this is just a small sample of what's coming out this summer. Later this summer, there's a whole slew of books, a lot of good books coming out still, and here's a little working group to work from. So Beth, thank you for joining us today, giving us some insight in some of these titles. And you've been watching Bookshelf, so thank you for watching and good reading.